One of the most common questions I get when it comes to sales in War Thunder is which premium vehicles to pick up. And with the War Thunder pack sales coming pretty soon, here's this video to answer all those questions that I assume a lot of you will probably have of what you should spend your money on. The only problem with doing a type of video like this early is that we don't know how the pack sales will actually be. And as I know from last year, they can be completely different. We can have vehicles which are not on sale, and also they can be bundles, or they can just be a multitude of different things whenever it comes to the sales themselves. So in this video, it's more or less vehicles that I would recommend getting off the War Thunder store, and if they come on sale during the May sale or even the summer sale, it is definitely worth a pickup for me whenever it comes to these vehicles. With that being said, let's get on to the first premium pack vehicle. The first vehicle I'd recommend is the CV90-105. This is a rank 7 vehicle for Sweden that is at a battle rating of 10.0. This vehicle can currently grind out the whole entire Swedish tech tree, which is really good for it. The only thing that really changed about this pickup in the past, because I have recommended it, is that now you have a Leopard 2A4, which is a Christian 2, that you can possibly pick up to replace this premium. Now, for me at least, whenever I look at the Christian 2, it is a heavily modified Leopard 2A4, which in the tech tree of Sweden, you have two of them. You have the STRV-121, and then you also have the Finnish Leopard 2A4. So for me at least, whenever I view these two premiums of which one I would personally pick up, the CV90-105 just seems like a better deal because it's unique and also has a little bit difference to it compared to just buying a Leopard 2A4. It's basically a Leopard 2A4 with the Christian 2, and for me at least, if I'm going to buy a vehicle that can do pretty much the exact same thing, because both of these vehicles are at the same rank so they can grab the whole entire tech tree of Sweden, my personal opinion, pick up the CV90-105 because it's also probably going to be on sale, while the Christian 2 will be on sale maybe in the summer update of War Thunder. So when it comes to the blade style of the CV90-105, it's pretty much the same as any vehicle within War Thunder that has a 105L7, has a little bit of mobility, and it just has DM33. So you slap DM33 on that machine, and you have an autoloader that reloads in 5 seconds, so you're just going to hammer the enemy team whenever it comes to this vehicle. You also have really good thermals on the CV90-105, so it needs to be, hit with that. And then also, the CV90-105, while it doesn't have a ton of armor, it does have heavily angled armor, so I definitely had rounds which have bounced off the vehicle. But whenever you view the CV90-105, just imagine yourself in a Hellcat. That's the best way to put this vehicle of how it should be played if you played that vehicle within the American tech tree, even like the Italian or Chinese tech tree. The CV90-105 is one of those vehicles that you really do not want to take a hit on. If you see stuff like 2S38s, or you see stuff like IFEs like Bradleys or BMP-2Ms, it's a vehicle that you just do not want to engage those things head on, because this vehicle just doesn't have enough armor to actually stop those types of rounds from the ABOSDS of autocannons. But also you got to be cognizant of aircraft, because aircraft can even gun this vehicle out because it is very lightly armored from the top and as well as the sides of the vehicle. So overall, the CV90-105 is a really good vehicle. It's going to be doing really good if you get on the flanks of enemies. It's going to have that 5-second reload, which means that you're just going to batter T-72s. You're going to be able to batter Abrams even with the thing. And the only downside I would say to it is just the armor. The armor is really poor, but if you play it to its strengths of being a really good light tank, then you shouldn't really have to worry about that as much, unless it's just completely out of your control like Casplane. Yeah, overall, I would highly recommend the CV90-105, especially since it's a unique vehicle whenever it comes to the Swedish tech tree, and it will be able to grind out the whole entire tech tree as of right now, with rank 8 currently being in the game. The next vehicle on the list is the F5C, and this vehicle is basically a staple vehicle of America. If you want a vehicle that is going to be able to grind out the whole entire tech tree as of right now, since rank 9 has not come into the game, we'll talk about it later in just a second, this vehicle can do it because it is a rank 7, which means that it can grind all the way up to rank 8. The cool thing about the F5C compared to every other premium within any other tech tree is that this vehicle currently has only 2 AIM-9Es and then also the 20mm cannons on the front. So there's really not much you have to learn about it whenever it comes to radars, whenever it comes to anything special about the vehicle. You can pick up and play. There's not really anything that you have to learn other than maybe how to evade radar missiles, or how to evade, how to use chaff and, flares and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very simple vehicle to pick up, and I feel like anyone can really pick this one up and do decently good in it because it's at a really good battle rating of 10.3, and it does really good. The only thing about it is that since America now has the F-20A Tiger Shark, is it still a better pickup? And for me at least, I'd say the F5C is. The F5C is at a way better battle rating than the F-20A. It can still do the exact same thing as the F-20A, which is grind all the way up to rank 8. The only question that kind of just, is a question you should answer to yourself: is this vehicle going to be enough for you? Are you going to want vehicles in the future of War Thunder of, rank 9 comes into the game or rank 10 comes into the game? That's whenever the F5C will just lose its effectiveness, just depending on how many vehicles they put into those ranks. And as we know with War Thunder right now, for the American tech tree, there is currently only about 6 or 7 vehicles within rank 8. So is it a compromise that you'd rather take right now? I would definitely say so. I would definitely say the FIC is still going to be good even once they start adding more ranks, once they start adding, insane stuff like F-22s or, F-35s. It's still going to be really good for going up the tech tree as long as, and this is a key thing to this, as long as it sticks at that 10.3 battle rating. The next vehicle to me is an honorable mention because I don't think it's incredibly good to pick it up right now. I think there's better options for the Russian tech tree, but it still is a really good vehicle, which is the IS-6. IS-6 has fallen from grace. It used to be a 7.0 vehicle, then it got moved to 7.3, and then finally it is now sitting at a battle rating of 7.7. And for the IS-6, it is a vehicle that in a up tier to 8.7, it would just get stomped on. There's nothing really it can do. You get the 120mm cannon on it, which will just nuke everything, but the big point about the IS-6 is the armor, and whenever you're facing vehicles which have heat FS, which have APFSDS, even with some of the 8.3s and 8.7s, it gets memed on. Like, there's really nothing else to say about it. But the one place that the IS-6 actually shines is in a down tier. If you can get a 6.7 down tier in this thing and you're one of the 4 people on your team that are in the IS-6, apparently this vehicle can do really good. It's really like the mouse at this point of where the vehicle needs a down tier. If it doesn't get down tier, it's really not worth spawning in unless you just have some sort of close range map of where people won't be able to laser range find you with thermals, or hit you with an APFSDS at very long ranges. Because that's basically the playstyle of it. It's just like the mouse of where you need a particular thing to happen within your games, and if that doesn't happen, it's going to be a real struggle bus because you're having to fight people with stabilizers, you're having to fight people with APFSDS, laser rangefinders, faster reload. The whole vehicle itself is just really bad at this point. But overall, I would really say the research for it is okay. Like, it's a rank 5. It's going to miss out on researching rank 7 and 8 vehicles for Russia. So if you're looking for a grinder, I definitely think there's better options to it. But the IS-6 is still a decently good vehicle, just not in and up tier. So the next vehicle we have here is the Leopard 2A4 for Germany, which is the PzBtl. It's a really cool vehicle because it has a camo netting on it, which is kind of unique compared to every other vehicle within the game. Premiums do have that like pizzazz to them, or where they get something a little bit special to them. But overall, the Leopard 2s are really good. This vehicle, the Leopard 2A4, for example, is not really poor in anything. It's really good in mobility. It's really good with the gun. It's pretty decent in armor. There's nothing that I would say is just completely negative about it compared to vehicles like the P-72 Terms, for example, with the reverse speed. It's a very average tank, and I feel like in War Thunder, if your tank is average, it can be really good because you're able to use it to its strengths, but it's not really good in anything. Like, it's not great in anything is what I mean. So you don't have like a low pin gun, you don't have just the fastest mobility around the block, you don't have the best armor within this battle rating bracket, but you do have a really average tank, and that makes it special. It makes it really good for what it is, and I highly do recommend getting this vehicle if you want to grind out the German tech tree. The only question that I really have about this vehicle is that currently Germany is one of the only nations that does not have multiple rank 7 vehicles. So this is the only vehicle that you can get that can currently grind rank 8 whenever it comes to Germany. And the question I kind of have right now is, what is the next premium that Germany is going to get, and could it possibly be that Canadian Leopard that's been leaked about 5 times now? It could possibly come to the German tech tree as a premium, and I would highly suspect that will probably be what comes. But at the same time, it's at a really good battle rating, the Leopard 2A4 is. It's 10.3, it has a really good lineup at 10.3, you have a bunch of 10.0s that it can slot into that lineup as well. The big thing about it is do you want to wait and see if they add something new, or do you want an averagely performing vehicle that's going to perform very, very similar to what is already in the tech tree of War Thunder? So yeah, I highly recommend the Leopard 2A4. It's really good. It is one of probably the best MBTs at 10.3, and overall, it's a really good vehicle to pick up. So after looking at the Leopard 2A4, it's time to look at the rival, which is the M1 KVT. Now the M1 KVT is a little bit interesting because it's just an M1 Abrams with a transmog on it, so you have a cool op or type of skin on it that you're supposed to be kind of being the enemy for the Americas. That's how that normally goes, but it's a vehicle that is fake, and the reason that it's fake is because they never put this transmog in real life on this vehicle because it's just a 105 L7 derivative M1 Abrams. Now the real vehicle had the M1A1, and for some reason Gaijin was like, oh yeah, you know what, we're just going to add the M1A1 clickbait and not actually introduce the actual KVT. So that's kind of cringe, but is what it is. The M1 KVT, honestly though, is at a really good battle rating. It's at 10.3. It's probably one of my favorite 10.3 vehicles to play. I know some people have really said this vehicle is very poor just because of the gun. They don't like M774, but the Abrams has really good features about it. It has really good mobility. Surprisingly, it can survive shots. I know a lot of people don't really know how to one-shot Abrams consistently, so if you get shot in like the turret ring, for example, and you survive, or you get shot within, you know, your breach or something, you can use its mobility to just get away very quickly, and it's something that people don't ever realize. You also have to blow up, you know, panels in the back, so if you get shot through your ammo, you can survive that and maybe go get some more ammo. It's very annoying when that happens, but it's just one of those things. The Abrams is just really good. It plays just like an M18 Hellcat. You want to get on the sides of enemies, you want to get in really annoying positions, and you want that L7 to just work for you. Because, like, for example, if you use the M18, while your gun's really poor and you can't pin like a Tiger 2H from the front, if you get on the side of a Tiger 2H, you're going to win. You have an easy shot straight into the ammo, and it's really good. And that's kind of the same thing that happens with Abrams. If you can get on the sides of enemies, if you can get in really good positions, you can just own the whole entire map. You can own pretty much every, you know, vehicle 9.3 below. Whenever it comes to this vehicle, it's just good. And I know a lot of people are very controversial on this vehicle, being like, oh, it needs M833 or it needs M900. No, it doesn't. It's really good for what it does. Just quit being a bonehead and just running straight into the enemy and expecting this vehicle to actually do something for you. You have to play it like a light tank, and if you don't, that's whenever this thing sucks. And whenever you do, you can drop like 10 or 15 kill games, get nuked constantly, because 10-3 lineup for, you know, America's just good. So there you go. M1 KVT, really good vehicle. I would highly recommend it. And the only question that I really have about it is like, should you actually get it? Because, you know, America does have 3 premiums at rank 7, which is the Wolfpack, the M1 KVT, and then also the M1A1 Clickbait, which is the newest one that's came out. And in my honest opinion, the reason I don't like the Wolfpack, the reload's too long on it, and also the gun depression kills that vehicle for me. The M1 KVT is a really good tank at its battle rating. It doesn't have the greatest of guns, but you can work around that. And then also the M1A1 Clickbait, while it has a better gun and it has better armor and it has everything that an Abrams has, it's at 11.3, and since it's 11.3, you're going to see a lot of up tiers to just top tier of Leopard 207s, T90Ms, and it's not the greatest in the world whenever you have that happen to you. So overall, M1 KVT, if you want a really good grinder for America, is my pick. So French people, I know I didn't include anything whenever it came to the Golden Eagle premiums for the French tech tree. Honestly, I don't think they have anything good whenever it comes to the Golden Eagle premiums. Now, for example, I did feel like the FL10 was giving a good shot for it, but whenever I played that vehicle, it just felt like it was a worse Sherman. Like, it really does. It feels just like the M51 from the Israeli tech tree, of where it's a Sherman, but it loses a ton of features which make the Shermans good, like stabilizers, APHE, a really good and fast reloading gun. Now, it does kind of have that, but at the same time, the M4A1 from the American tech tree, which is at the same battle rating at 5.0, has the 76mm, which has APHE, and it has almost the same reload. So I don't really see a huge difference in playing that vehicle compared to the FL10, and honestly at this point I would probably prefer that vehicle over the FL10 just because of the reliability of the one shot of that machine, and also just stabilizer. So many people underestimate the power of stabilizers whenever it comes to War Thunder, and the FL10 just doesn't have one. It is kind of bad in my opinion because of that. Now, the one thing for France is that they have a pretty decent pack premium, being the Somua SM. Now, I do want to preface this before we talk about this. It is just like the IS-6, and that is that it has a fundamental flaw with it. It's at the battle rating of 7.7. So once again, if it's in an up tier to 8.7, it's going to struggle. If it's in a down tier, it's going to do really good. So that's one thing that we want to preface with this vehicle. If you get thrown into 8.7, you just get memed on by laser rangefinders and APFSDS, which honestly is just not fun whenever it comes to actually playing this vehicle. So when I look at the Somua SM, it has a pretty interesting strength to the vehicle, which is that it has an angled 150mm plate on the front, which is very similar to the Tiger 2's, funny enough. Now, the problem with this is that some people don't realize that you're a Somua and think that you're, for example, the AMX-50, which only has 90mm on the front. So they just try to shoot directly through that frontal plate. And then in the Somua, you're just kind of like, haha, I'm not a AMX-50, get memed on with my 100mm cannon. That's basically what happens with the Somua. But you do have to realize that some people are becoming smart whenever it comes to the French auto-loading and oscillating tanks. And that is, if they see an oscillating tank, instead of shooting for the hull, which they used to do before the Somua was in the game, they're now just shooting directly for the turret, because you can't really tell if it's a Somua if it has a bunch of bushes on it. So most people have started to just aim before the weak spot of the turret, which can be a little bit bad. But overall, the Somua, if you can get people to bait shot you into that, and they have like APHE, for example, if it's HeatFS or APFSDS, good luck, you're dead. But if it's like APHE from like a T29, it is very much a cool thing where they shoot for that plate and it just doesn't go through, and it's really cool to actually just shoot them back with your 100mm cannon. Now, the thing to talk about the Somua is the 100mm cannon, while it has has been buffed in the past with the AP shell. It's still an AP shell, so you may have to actually put multiple shots in the enemies. And even though you have a 4-second reload, in your first stage ammo rack, which is your autoloader, you only have a maximum of 8 shells that you can shoot at a time. So as soon as you shoot 8 shells, you're down to a reload that is going to be very much essential compared to your actual autoloader reload, which can be a bit of a problem. So you do have to be cognizant of that, because 8 shells in a 4-second autoloader can go by very quickly. And always make sure that you're hopping up or giving yourself a little bit of time to get more shells into your autoloader. You might suffer from that. So overall, if you want to Somua SM, it's an okay grinder. It's at rank 5, so it can do everything up to rank 6. It's a really solid tank to get in the French tech tree, but hopefully in the future France gets better premiums, because the AMX30 Super is not that great. The thing that they have, the VVC or whatever it's called, the little IFV thing, I wouldn't really say is great either, because it's at 9.7, and as we know with the War Thunder cells, a bunch of people are going to be playing 10.3 or 10.0, so it's going to be a bit of a struggle with that thing as well. But overall, France just needs like better premiums. Like, they don't really have much whenever it comes to their actual tech tree. The next vehicle we have is the T29, and just like the IS-6 and the Somua, it's the BR that really hinders how well this vehicle can perform. When it was at 6.7, it was a really good vehicle, but now being at 7.0, it's a vehicle that you don't really see as many down tiers as you do with a 6.7 lineup for America, like with the T34. It's 7.0, and there's very few nations within War Thunder that actually even have a 7.0 lineup. America is one of them. Germany is one of them if you have the deleted tanks or the removed tanks like the Panther II and the Tiger II 105. But other than that, every other nation has like 1 or 2 vehicles at max at 7.0, and most nations even skip 7.0 and directly go to 7.3 or even 7.7. So most of the time, unless there's like a huge amount of people playing like 6.0 to like 6.7, you're going to see some sort of up tier to 7.7. Like, it's just a fact with the T29. And whenever you're facing mouses, or you're facing Russian heavies, or you're facing vehicles which your gun just doesn't have an easy time pinning, the vehicle itself can be a little bit of a struggle. But overall, the T29, while being at 7.0, is still pretty good. Like, I don't think it's like a bad vehicle by any means, but at the same time, if it was 6.7, it would be a way better vehicle. But with 7.0 being its battle rating right now, it's not the greatest in the world. At least you can run it with ATD, which honestly is just a meme. If you ever see a mouse, you just drop that 4,000-pound bomb on them and easily destroy them. So overall, I would recommend the T29. Just, it's not the greatest grinder, because it's one of the only vehicles like at 7.0 that's like rank 4. So you can only grind all the way up to rank 5, which can be a bit of a hindrance for it if you want a vehicle that's purely just based on grinding. But if you want a pretty fun vehicle, the T29 is pretty good. 105 can easily kill a lot of things, and the only thing that you really have to worry about that 105 is that it's a very long reloading cannon for what it is. For example, if you're facing like a Tiger II, the long 88 can reload in like 8 seconds, like a base stock reload. The 105 APHE out of the T29 has like, I believe, a 12.5 second reload topped out at ace crew, and most likely you're never going to be at ace crew. So it definitely is one of those things that you do have to be cognizant of with the T29. Next, we have the classic of the T55 AM1. Every year I pretty much just recommend this thing. Even though it used to be 8.3, it's now went up to 8.7. This vehicle is still really good. It has really decent armor for what it is. I mean, now APFSDS is just going to meme this thing, but whenever you're facing vehicles, for example, like in a 7.7 down tier, some of them just have like APHE and then also AP rounds, like even Somua, it's still going to do really well. I mean, it's not the greatest in the world now, especially since it's an 8.7, which means that it can see 9.7 up tiers, but the T55 AM1, it's still good. Like, it has decent mobility. The really only downside to the vehicle, I'd say, is the gun. And the reason I say that is because the 100mm for Russia is a good gun. It really is. Like, the APHE is really good. It has a laser rangefinder, which means that you can use an APHE and laser rangefinder, which is good. But the Achilles heel to this gun is the reload. And even though it's very close to the 105mm reload of the L7, most of the time it will get beaten out by the L7. And since that's the most common gun that you'll see around these battle rating brackets, I would say, for me at least, that you need to run APHE on smaller maps, just because the potential of not one-shotting opponents is very high on those maps, and you don't really get a time to reload. And then if you're on larger maps where you need, velocity and also just pin, you can run the APFSDS, which is what I normally do. So you kind of have to be cognizant of what you're doing. You might need to switch them out depending on, the map. I normally bring more APHE if I'm on like a map like Poland, and if I get fields of Poland, I'm going to be bringing more APFSDS, just because I'll be shooting at longer ranges, and then also I'll have more time to reload, which means I don't have to, be worrying that, they still have a gunner, they still have their commander, and they can, take over and do all kinds of stuff with that. So the T55 AM1 is still really good. It's still really good at grinding, surprisingly enough. With rank 8 being now added to the game and this vehicle being in rank 6, Russia only has 3 vehicles at rank 8. So you're still able to grind a majority of the tech tree of Russia with the T55AM1, and honestly, that's still really good. You only miss out on the actual efficiency of 3 vehicles. So if you want to get a vehicle that can grind, that's still really good for what it is, I definitely recommend the T55AM1. The next vehicle on the list is the Tiger II SLA for Germany, and the reason I like this vehicle is because it's just a Tiger II, but with a little bit better of an engine whenever it comes to its acceleration and also just its torque, being able to like move up a hill, for example. The Long 88 in War Thunder is just a staple gun. It's just good. It's probably, if it's not the best gun at 6.7, it's definitely being close to being one of the best guns within that battle rating bracket. The only thing that I would say is kind of negative about Tiger IIs in general is that since the Gaijin has pretty much forced a ammo rack to be in the back of the turret, vehicles like the M18 or vehicles like mediums like T20s, for example, will easily just be able to get on the side of Tiger IIs and shoot that ammo rack and pretty much get a reliable one-shot kill every time. It's the Achilles heel of the Tigers. If you let somebody flank you or you let somebody get on the side of you where they're able to see the ammo rack, you are just basically dead. But from the front, you relatively speaking have a bunch of armor. The only downside is the turret face, which can be pinned by a bunch of things. But whenever it comes to 76mm or it comes to the 90mm, which is on like the M26, for example, the Pershing, the only way that they can do anything for the Pershing with the 90mm is actually using APCR. So you're relatively okay whenever it comes to the front of the tank of actually, getting shot by stuff. But as soon as you see heat FS or as soon as you see somebody on your side like an M18, you are basically just dead in this thing unless you start to angle with it and you're able to get, the shot to actually bounce. Overall, the Tiger II SLA, I would highly recommend getting it. It is one of my favorite vehicles and probably one of my most played premiums within War Thunder, just because Tigers are pretty good. It's a really good, it's at a really good battle rating bracket of 6.7. Got a really good lineup to go with it. You have a ton of cash, you have a ton of other options to play with it, and it's overall really good. The only thing that I do have to say about the Tiger II SLA is I wouldn't say it's like the greatest of grinders now if you're looking to get into the upper tiers of War Thunder. It's only ranked 4, so it can only research all the way to rank 5, so you're missing out on rank 6, 7, and 8 whenever it comes to this vehicle. But overall, really good vehicle to pick up if you're looking for a Tiger II. So the next vehicle on the list is the Wyvern, and this vehicle is a vehicle for me that I have in a lot of lineups just because it's a vehicle that is able to kill anything. It has 3 1,000-pound bombs, which makes it really good at killing the vehicles like the KV-1E or KV-1B, because as we know, those vehicles can be incredibly annoying, especially at like battle rating of 4.3. It is a easy vehicle to just bring in, get somebody out of the game or get somebody out of a power position because it's an incredibly good CAS aircraft for the British. You can even bring this thing in like the 6.7 and it still will perform very, very good. The only downside to this vehicle is that the bomb drop's a little bit of an iffy thing because you're able to drop 3 bombs and they don't drop like 2 at a time on the wings. If you only drop 1, your left wing will become extremely heavy compared to the right wing, which means you have a weight differential. So it's always going to be pulling towards the left side of the plane whenever you're flying around with 2 bombs. The only thing that you can really do, and I highly recommend it, is just finding a target and getting rid of that bomb as fast as you can, because there's been so many times to find a Wyvern does kind of like cognitively forget about that this thing is heavy on the left wing, and I let go of like my D key, which is kind of pushing the right wing down with the aileron right, and I forget about that and I crash. So it is definitely one of those vehicles you want to get off both bombs as fast as you can, and then the center bomb normally is not a problem whenever it comes out. But yeah, reliably speaking, you can get 3 kills with this thing pretty easily. 3 1000s will nuke everything except for like a mouse or maybe a object 279. Those are the only 2 vehicles I can realistically say if you get that bomb within like 5 feet of them, they're dead. If we want to talk about this vehicle from a ARB point of view though, I don't really recommend it for that because it's not the greatest. I mean, yes, you can outrun a bunch of things, you can make people energy fight you and just win a lot of times, but it's a vehicle that is very much based on how much patience that you have. How much patience are you going to be willing to give somebody to just chase you until you get enough energy from them and then turn back around and probably introduce some sort of head on them. It's one of those types of vehicles, right? So I don't recommend it for like a ARB grinder, but I do recommend it for a ground RB for a CAS aircraft, as it's just really good. So yeah, that's the picks for my top vehicles that I would pick up during the War Thunder sales, or if in general you're just looking for some good premiums, these are my picks for that. One common thing that does get questioned, or that I get questioned a lot on, is why do I never put in vehicles like the M or like the MiG-23 ML? And I'm going to be completely honest, it's just because I don't have enough experience with the area of the game. I'm never going to recommend vehicles that I personally don't play and that I don't get enough experience in to see how good they are. And even with this video, I went through a bunch of these vehicles to play on stream for Twitch, where we kind of just seen where they were at, because as you know, the IS-6 for example moved from 7.0 to 7.3 to 7.7. So playing that vehicle kind of opened my eyes of how differently that vehicle played compared to when I played it like 2 or 3 years ago. So it is definitely one of those things that you need to be cognizant of whenever people are recommending a bunch of these vehicles, is maybe they don't have a ton of experience in it, or they don't have a ton time to actually just see what it kind of is. And vehicles change, you know, like I just said, IS6 is the vehicle that is definitely one of those things. And then also, I don't like to promote vehicles which a general player, what I mean by that is someone who's like in the mid 50s of like their level, they kind of have like a general idea of like what War Thunder is. I don't want people getting recommended like, you know, radar machines, like radar top tier aircraft, just because it's something that you need to learn. And it's something that I don't think people can just pick up and play. They can very much, it can very much like frustrate people. And from seeing that like firsthand of people who come into like streams or they like comment stuff whenever it comes out, they're kind of like, dog, like I bought the F4S, but I'm just like terrible at it because I don't know how to use any of the radar stuff, or the only thing I really know how to do is base bomb because I don't know my keybinds or I don't know all that sort of stuff. So I like to generally put in vehicles that I think anyone can pick up. And most of these vehicles can, you know, most of them easily can just be picked up through the store and then you're able to play them and not really, you know, there's definitely a skill ceiling to them. You want to get better at them, but at the same time, it's not a huge skill ceiling of where you don't have keybinds, you know, actually, you know, put in, or you don't know how to, you know, use radar missiles. So yeah, that's basically why I never put in any of those. And honestly, even some of the radarless missiles like the Kafir Canard, it's a vehicle that I like, but I don't like it enough to recommend it to somebody else to play. So overall, that's my opinion on that. I do hope all of you did enjoy this video because it did take a while to make. We streamed on Twitch, I believe, for at least like 16 hours of getting gameplay for all these premium stuff. But yeah, hopefully this does help you guys whenever it comes to actually getting an opinion on what you should buy. Once again, these are worth their premiums, man. If you don't have the money for it, you don't really need to buy them. Like, the game can be enjoyable just from just playing the game and, you know, grinding up the tech tree normally. So I'd highly recommend, if you don't have premium time, get that first. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys in the next War Thunder video.